I don't normally talk about OCG and the meta that's going on over there, but I think today is kind of an exception. Hey guys, Otaka here, back with another competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Discussion. So today, we're going to be talking about the OCG Forbidden Limited list that just came out this past weekend, and kind of what to expect in the TCG with the ban list that's going to be coming out within the next couple weeks over here. But before we jump into the discussion, I do want to point out that about 98% of you that watch my videos are not already subscribed, so if you enjoy competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, consider subscribing, and also hit that bell button for notifications when future videos come out. But enough of that, let's just jump right into it. So yes, a new Forbidden and Limited list did just come out in the OCG, and normally that doesn't really do much here for the TCG because the formats are so massively different. However, there are some things that we can probably take from this to expect coming into our ban list coming out in the next couple weeks. So to start, we do have Summon Sorceress in the OCG coming from banned to 3. This card is just very busted, or at least what it was. Its old text was, if this card is link summoned, you can special summon one monster from your hand in defense position to your opponent's zone this card points to. You can target one face-up monster this card points to and special summon one monster from the deck in defense position with the same type as that monster to a zone this card points to, but negate its effects. You can only use this effect of Summon Sorceress once per turn. Now, I wasn't around when Summon Sorceress was at its prime, but I do know this card was incredibly powerful, and we did kind of know an errata was coming sooner or later. We just didn't expect it to be Summon Sorceress specifically. We thought it'd be something like Union Carrier, but what the new effect reads is that you can only use this effect of this card's name once per turn, so hard once per turn. If this card is link summoned, you can special summon one monster from your hand in defense position to an opponent's zone this card points to, but negate its effects. Then, you can special summon one monster with the same type as that monster from your deck in defense position, but negate its effects. And if you do that, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except monsters with the same original type as the monster summoned from the deck. So basically, this card is revolving around monsters of the same type, which it used to do that to begin with, but what it does now is it's no longer two separate effects. It is special summon from your hand and then special summon from the deck. It's a sequential effect. It's all one effect, but both monsters have their effects negated, whereas the one that was specialed from the deck originally had its effects negated, but then it has a hard lock. Now, obviously, this errata will come to the TCG. I don't know if it'll be this immediate list, but it's safe to assume that same with the Ancient Fairy Dragon. When it got errataed, it will come to 1 most likely here in the TCG. The TCG is a lot more wary when it comes to bringing stuff off the lift, so I don't think we're going to bring it fully to 3 like the OCG did, but I do think that thanks to the errata, Summon Sorceress will be brought to 1 on this next list. That being said, I still think this is an incredibly powerful effect, but we'll have to, of course, wait and see. There's not a lot of decks right now that, like, revolve around one typing. Like Fire King is probably the closest, or Fire King Snake Eye is like the closest to it, or Pure Snake Eye, because they're like mostly all pyros, but even then, it's still not very cut and dry. I'm sure someone will find a way to break this, but that hard lock does make it a little bit less broken of a card. Now, some cards that no one really cares about is Gearsu, the Orcus Mech Knight, going from 2 to 3, Supreme King Dragon Darkworm, going 2 to 3, Rite of Aramasir, because the Adventure Engine is not full power in the OCG, going from 2 to 3, and Infinity Launcher going from 2 to 3. None of these matter. So the problem is that this current list, the OCG players are like really mad because this list doesn't really change a lot, and we'll get more into it when we get down to the more restrictive hits, quote unquote. And most of the OCG players are just not happy because Fire King Snake Eye or just Pure Snake Eye is still very much going to be dominating the format, and they're 2 sets ahead of us. So then the final unlimit is Change of Heart from 2 to 3. Funny enough, Change of Heart just doesn't do a lot over there. We still have it 1 here in the TCG, and honestly, I don't know. I think it could come to 3. I don't think Change of Heart is going to be game-breaking by any means. It is a thrust target, so the fact that it's at 1 pretty much means it's already at 4, but I digress on that. But semi-limits, Ib, the World Chalice Justiciar, or however you pronounce this, going from 1 to 2. It is currently, I believe, at 1 here in the TCG. It's good for Dragon Link, but obviously it's not doing much there. But the big ones, the big hits, and I put big very lightly because they're big based on what card they are, but they don't do anything. SP Little Knight and Fire King High Avatar Kirin going from 3 to 2. This is just a joke. Honestly, this is just a fucking joke. SP Little Knight, even in the TCG where we're a lot more aggressive because Max C is not a thing. We don't run this card at 3. No deck is really running this card at 3, not to mention that's like $420 for a playset. However, this did do something here in the TCG. SP Little Knight is now on everyone's radar, thinking that this card's going to get hit here in the TCG, because the TCG ban lists are far more aggressive when it comes to what cards they're hitting. So a lot of people think this card's about to get hit. 2 days ago, this card was at $140 on TCG, 135 medium or median. Card's down to like $80, $90 now. Card has by no means gotten a lot cheaper, but it's definitely cheaper. People think this card's about to get bitch slapped on the ban list. I have my doubts, but over in the OCG, even then, no one's really running this even at 2. It's good that it's still an option, I guess, but and not a lot of decks are running this at 2. Some people run it at 2, but it was primarily when like AGOV first came out, people were running this at 2, and then we all just kind of realized we don't need 2, so we just put it at 1, especially on more restrictive decks that need that 1 extra slot. This is a joke. High Avatar Kieran, a lot of decks, a lot of Fire King decks were only running this at 2 to begin with, especially here in the TCG. This is, oh boy, I'm not allowed to run that third one. I no longer have that option. Oh boy. Like I said, most lists that were playing the Fire King engine were only running 2 of this to begin with, because you don't want to see more than 1 of it in your hand, and that third one does present that more likely. So another semi-limit is Snake Eye Ash, or Snash as some people are calling it, to 2. This doesn't do shit. This literally doesn't do anything. Snake Eye Ash needed to get limited. This card is just incredibly powerful. Cutting away 1 does, of course, it is a consistency hit, but it's not enough. I am in the boat that a lot of cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Either get put to 1 or they're at 3. If you're not going to ban it, it has to be at 1 or 3. 2 does not do a lot in most scenarios. The most perfect semi-limit hit in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Malicious. That's like the one time it worked, in my opinion. Snash being at 2 is not going to do anything, and even the OCG players know this isn't going to do anything. Kaiser Coliseum and Pot of Extravagance. Kaiser Coliseum is really good for Tenpai Dragon. Something that's banned here in the TCG is Kaiser Coliseum, but they still have it at full power. It's about to go to 2 because, again, Tenpai Dragon's just kind of playing this, and it's like the floodgate of all floodgates. Well, sorry, Mystic Mind's the floodgate of all floodgates, but this is up there. So Tenpai Dragon's just gonna have like a little less consistency, but it's really weird that they're hitting Tenpai Dragon, because like that's the deck currently that's like anti Fire King or anti Fire in general. So the fact that they're hitting the second best deck, or like the meta killer, is just really weird to me. Pot of Extravagance, I'll be honest, I don't know what this is for. I don't keep up too much with the OCG. I just know that Fire is still a dominating threat over there, and this list does not really do anything to it. So again, I don't know particularly why Extravagance is getting semi-limited, but let me know down in the comments if you know. And next on the list, of course, is the limits. We have Tidal, the Dragon Ruler of Waterfalls. I don't know how the Dragon Rulers are faring over in the OCG. I don't know if where they're at in terms of hits, but I know that Tidal is the last one on the TCG list that is still banned. So there's a good likelihood that we will see Tidal on this next list, because they're just, Konami's realizing, and even the community is realizing, that they're not doing anything. They have been power crept. Tidal is the last one, and the only real application I can see him in at the current moment is like Goaty. But we'll have to wait and see, of course, if he even comes off the list. I do know that all 4 Dragon Rulers are at 3 in Master Duel, and they are doing nothing. So, not even as engines at the moment. So, we are probably going to see Tidal on the next list. Wanted, going from 3 to 1. That's probably the best hit on this entire ban list, or on this entire Forbidden Unlimited list, because at least they acknowledged one of the Fire King Snake Eye, or just Wanted Sinful Spoils engines. They acknowledged something, but I think Wanted, like if I had to choose, Snake Eye Ash would go to 1 and Wanted would go to 2 if I had to, have one of each. But I guess this is better than nothing, and I'm pretty sure that's what the OCG players are saying when they see Wanted. They're just like, at least they hit it in some way. I don't think Wanted's going to get hit here in the TCG, but this card is also kind of seeing some ban list scares on TCG Player, but we'll have to, of course, wait and see, because Konami is incredibly unpredictable when it comes to all this stuff. And then there can be only one, going from 2 to 1. Most of the floodgates in the OCG are like semi-limited. Most of them are limited in Master Duel, and we just hit a handful of them on the TCG list on the last list. Hopefully we're going to be hitting the rest, but Konami is kind of starting to realize that the majority of Yu-Gi-Oh players don't like these cards. They don't like cards that just completely restrict the game state. So instead of completely banning them, they are, of course, limiting them. They're making them still accessible, but less accessible to players that want to just shut down the game entirely. But there will also be a link in the description down below to a video where I was discussing floodgates and their healthiness for Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole, but also my opinion on floodgates entirely. So don't forget to check that one out. And that's it for the Forbidden Limited list. As you notice, there's no bans, no forbidden listings here, and that's simply because the OCG is a lot more reserved when it comes to banning cards than the TCG. This list, even by OCG standards, is just very underwhelming. It's not doing a lot. Like I said, I think Snake Eye Ash should have been the one to get put to 1 and then like wanted to 2. I don't think putting anything in the Snake Eye engine right now to 2 is really gonna do anything. They still have incredible consistency, and I think just hitting anything in the Fire King engine is kind of meh, because you hit the Fire King stuff and they just gravitate towards the pure build, which is, again, as I've mentioned 1,000 times, far better than the Fire King Snake Eye build that has more representation. But I am, of course, curious of what your thoughts are, so don't forget to leave a comment down below on what you think of this current OCG ban list, what you think's gonna come of it in the TCG, if really anything. And with that, don't forget to leave a like, and if you're not already, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya.